What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, I got another poll for you guys, and once again, the corporate press are trying to manipulate this thing. What they do is to try to paint themselves as being fair and balanced. What they'll do is they'll come out and say, oh, well, look, Democrats are kind of bad right here, but Republicans are really, really bad, and then they'll just go the opposite direction. And, oh, well, Democrats, they are the ones that are going to save us. That, of course, that's always the narrative. They don't blatantly tell you that. You have to kind of read between the lines to get that. And that's fascinating to me, y'all. But check this out. CNN poll. A record share of Americans want the government to get more done. Few trust either party to do it. Is that the case? Is that really the case? Once again, you go try to find the methodology in some of these polls, and you just can't find it. And you can't trust a poll to where you can't see the questions asked and, the methodology behind the polling. It's hard to trust these. And then, you got the corporate press. They'll take that poll and manipulate it even further. But let's get into this because there's some fascinating numbers up in here, y'all. Check this out. Neither the Republican nor the Democratic Party has consolidated a majority of the public behind its approach, with more than 4 in 10 saying that neither party can get things done or has strong leadership, a new CNN survey conducted by SSRS finds. Despite those widespread doubts, Americans increasingly say they see meaningful differences between the two parties. What does that even mean? Meaningful differences? Why are you asking that question? Of course there are meaningful differences between the two parties. Why would you even ask that? But once again, folks, they phrase these questions in such a way where they can derive something totally different from that question. Kind of like they'll ask a question, well, do you think that trans people deserve the right to exist? And then in the poll, they'll say something like, oh, well, 80% of Americans agree with the trans movement, type of thing like that. Like, of course, people are going to answer, well, of course they have the right to exist, but they might not agree with the ideology. But then when they actually run the news story on this, they make you think, and this is all a campaign to bring you over into their camp. They will lie, they will cheat, they will manipulate you all the way into their arms. That's what they do. It's fascinating, y'all. It really is. So what does all this even mean? 4 in 10 saying neither party can get things done? Yeah, I'd like to see the methodology behind that, but let's keep going. The poll, taken as public opinion, resettles in the first months of Donald Trump's second administration, also finds a record high share of the public saying that the government should be doing more to solve problems. That's fascinating because currently the government is attempting to do everything it can to solve problems. And guess who's stopping that? Democrats and NGOs. Democratically aligned non-governmental organizations. They're trying to stop every single thing that the government is doing to try to fix this nation. So what do you mean by that? It's fascinating, y'all. But once again, they don't explain that the entirety of the Democratic apparatus is spending millions of dollars to stop an administration that wants to fix the problems of the last 4 years. But they're telling you that, oh, well, X amount of Americans believe that neither party can get anything done. That is true because one party spending millions of dollars to stop the other party. That's why one party can't get anything done. It's fascinating, y'all. It really is. Americans are evenly split on which party best reflects their views on the role of the federal government, with 1/3 of respondents saying neither party does. Yeah, that's about right. Amid a wave of skepticism among Democrats about their own party's effectiveness, the GOP currently holds the advantage across several key attributes, though with a shrinking advantage on the economy, which regularly polls as Americans' top concern, increasing distinction between parties. Americans see Republicans and Democrats as offering vastly contrasting visions of the country, as it should. An 81% majority say they see important differences between the two parties. Making an increase from 2 years ago across political, age, and educational lines. Just 18% say the parties are pretty much the same down from 28% in 2023 and roughly one-third in CNN and Gallup polling dating back to 2002. Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, they were the same back then because we did not have this hyperpolarization as we do now. And I blame most of the hyperpolarization on the corporate press for gaslighting, these massive gaslighting campaigns where people that actually care about reality and care about what's going on and want to know the truth will look past the narratives to get the truth, and then those people get red-pilled into oblivion and they look at everything like, hang on just a second, that's not reality. So of course we're going to be hyperpolarized because some people want the truth and some people want to be sheep. They just go right along with whatever the cult says. And that's it. They don't care about the truth. They care about the narrative. They said this, and they're a source of authority. So I'm going to just believe what they say. No questions asked. Then you got this other camp over here. That's the hyperpolarization. It's all about what you believe. And the bad thing is the two camps is, do you believe the truth or do you believe a lie? It's a sad state of affairs in this country, y'all. It really is. But even among those who say there are critical differences between the two major parties, a sizable minority say neither reflects their vision across a range of issues. Yes, we have a lot of different people in this country. Basically, that's what they're saying. Nearly 20% who see such differences still say neither party reflects their perspective on at least 5 out of 9 issues they were asked about in the poll. Yeah, there's this thing out there called libertarians. Asked to choose which of the parties they see as the party that can get things done, the party with strong leaders or the party of change, the lion's share of the public, more than 4 in 10, say that neither party fits the bill. At the same time, most Americans, 58%, now say the government should do more to solve the country's problems, a record high in more than 30 years of CNN's polling. While Democratic views on the role of government have remained largely unchanged over the past 2 years, the shares of Republicans and independents who say that the government is doing too many things have both fallen since the White House changed hands. Once again, folks, I mean, this is just standard operating procedure, right? Republicans are small government people for the most part, or at least now they are since the party changed back in 2016 to where it's MAGA Republicans are the establishment essentially, and the old establishment, the old neocons, they're kind of going by the wayside. So yes, Republicans, smaller government. So yes, they think the government should be doing less. Then you have libertarians over here who pretty much don't want any government at all outside of, the military to protect us and the judiciary, but that's not really what we're talking about here. But yeah, libertarians, they don't like government at all either. So this is just common. They're trying to make you think with this that, oh, Democrats want the government to do stuff. They're the only people that matter. Right. It's insane, y'all. While neither political party is viewed as especially strong or effective, skepticism weighs particularly heavily on the Democratic Party. See what I mean? Americans are far more likely to see Republicans than Democrats as the party with strong leaders. That's not true. 40% say this descriptor applies more to the GOP, with just 16% saying it applies to the Democrats. They're also more likely to call Republicans the party that can get things done by 36% to 19%, and the party of change by 32% to 25%, which that shouldn't be the case at all because, once again, most Republicans are conservatives. What does that mean? You want to conserve what we got. There's not much change that goes on with that. Democrats, however, have this entire sect of the Democratic Party called progressives, which their entire reason for existence is to progress society much further and much faster than what everybody else would like. So, once again, folks, I'm just saying, That's in large part because of relatively anemic support for Democrats among their own partisans. GOP-aligned adults are 50 points likelier than Democratic-aligned adults to say their own party has strong leaders. Wow. And 36 points likelier to view their party as able to get things done. True independents, those who don't lean toward either party, are particularly grim in their views of the parties on these issues. 76% say neither party has strong leaders or can get things done, and 72% that they view neither party as the party of change. While the public as a whole sees the GOP as relatively effective, what was that, corporate press? Well, while the public as a whole sees the GOP as relatively effective, they also say 41% to 30% that it's better described as the party of extremism, the only attribute tested that fewer than 30% said applied to neither party. Roughly 1/6 of Republican-aligned adults say they view the GOP as representing extremism, compared with roughly 1/10 of Democratic-aligned adults who say the same of their own party. That's fascinating. That is very fascinating, because that is the opposite of the truth. Once again, folks, conservatives want to conserve what we've got. That is not extreme, not in the least. Most conservatives are the type of people that just say, "Will you please leave me alone? I just want to live my life." While Democrats try to force you into the cult, force you into their ideological views. And if you don't agree with their ideological views, you should be ostracized from society. Now, which one of those is more extreme? Once again, changing views of American dream, drop in GOP trust on economy and immigration. Beyond Americans' shifting views of government, the survey also finds ebbing belief in the achievability of the American dream. A 54% majority says that most people who want to get ahead can make it if they're willing to do hard work, down from 67% in 2016 and lower than other polling on the same question dating back to the 1990s. Nearly half, wait, hang on just a second though. That's kind of a nebulous question to ask, if you will, because what does that even mean? Like, getting ahead, is that the American dream? Is that how people view that question? Once again, folks, these questions, they're derived in such a way that it can be interpreted in multiple different ways. So take all this with a grain of salt, if you will. Nearly half, 45%, say they don't view hard work and determination as a guarantee of success for most people. That rises to 52% majority of Black Americans and 53% among those younger than 30, as well as 53% of those who don't agree with either party on the economy. 65% among Democrats and 71% among those who describe themselves as liberal. And once again, folks, success is viewed differently by different people. What do you mean by success? Because some people could view success as, paying off their mortgage every month, having 2 kids with a white picket fence, having car notes, having other bills that they're just barely getting by. That could be considered successful because they are getting by. And as far as the world population goes, they are in the top 1%. Other people, though, will view, unless they have $2 million in the bank and are making $50,000 a week, that they're not successful, that they're struggling. So, once again, these nebulous terms in these polls that they use to try to push a narrative, folks, that's all they are doing. Americans are closely split on which party represents the middle class, with a third saying neither does. Huh? The view that neither party stands for the middle class rises to 38% among those who say hard work and determination are no guarantee of success for most people. Asked which party best reflects their views on handling the economy more broadly, a perennial top issue that has frequently favored the GOP, the public gives the Republican Party an advantage, but a shrinking one. The party's 7-point margin on the issue now is down from 15 points in May 2022 and marks their narrowest advantage on the issue over that time. The Republican Party also sees a diminished edge on immigration, another typically strong topic for the Trump-led party. What was a 14-point lead in November 2023 now stands at just 6 points looking outward. Americans are now evenly divided on which party's views on world affairs are more closely match their own, an issue where Republicans held a 6-point edge in 2023. Yeah, of course people aren't going to care about immigration anymore because the Trump administration is doing everything it can as effectively secured the border, which 12 months ago, I know that's a big leap, but 12 months ago, people were, even I was arguing, yeah, the border can't really be secure totally. Now I'm looking at Trump's border policy like, hang on, maybe we can completely secure the border. So of course people don't care about immigration anymore. And Democrats, they care heavily about immigration because they're being gaslit. They don't know it. They're being lied to, saying, oh, these immigrants aren't getting due process, when that's just not the case. They fundamentally do not understand the immigration due process. Once again, folks, if you come into the country illegally and are here within 2 years, which, how are you going to determine that? How are you going to make that determination? You can be expeditiously removed without any that is the due process. You just get picked up by ICE and removed out of the country. And once again, another issue with this is that these people with final orders of deportation are being picked up and removed, and Democrats are screaming they need a trial. They've already had their trial. They're screaming about due process. They've already had their due process. So once again, they're being gaslit into believing that these people need another trial or something before they can leave. That's what a final order of deportation is. So, once again, they're trying to make you believe that Republicans, they're losing ground, even though every single figure would say otherwise. And as a matter of fact, Democrats are losing ground. It's insane, y'all. These polls, they're just so manipulative, and that's why I cover them. Across issues tested in the poll, Republicans held the widest advantage, 13 points, on their approach to crime and policing, and that margin has largely held over time. The public also leans modestly toward the GOP when it comes to taxes by a 7-point margin, and the federal budget, 5 points. Yeah, that's all to that. That is all to that one, y'all. But you gotta watch it. You got to watch the language they use in these polls. Then you really need to worry about the corporate press covering these polls because they don't cover these polls like they should. They absolutely do not. They don't tell you about the methodology, right? Like when I see these polls, I read the news article and then I have to go and find the poll and then work through all that. It takes a little while to do. But you got to go and work through all that. You got to look at the methodology and blah, 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 blah. Read the poll. Read the crosstabs, if you will. I know that's kind of a tropey line to say, but it is actually true. And it's actually a good thing to do. If you ever do go look at these polls, you must read the crosstabs. You can't just look at the numbers, right? And that's a problem. A lot of people, they just look at the numbers. They don't care about reality. They don't care about how they got to those numbers. Because there are many, many manipulative ways to get to a number. There are many ways you could honestly do it. Right? Every time I go to Rasmussen polls are some of the best polls in this country. They are mostly honest. They're not completely honest, but they are the most honest polling place. And I trust Rasmussen. There's a couple other ones, but we're not going to get into all that. I just wanted to discuss this and just how manipulative these polls actually are. But I'm sure y'all get the point. So I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all of this down in the comment section. Mind-blowing, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I think it is because they just continued to manipulate everything, folks. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. That would be great if you guys could do that. Also, what would be lovely if you could look right below the video, click that join button, sign up, become a member, help me bring the news to you guys, because I need your help, y'all. I really, really do. I need y'all's help. Share these videos anywhere and everywhere you can. Word of mouth is the best way to spread these videos around. But y'all do those for me, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.